There is a familiar kind of private frustration that repeats even in otherwise capable people. A task matters. Time is available, at least in theory. The person knows it should be done, and yet they circle it, delay it, reorganize around it, think about it excessively, and still fail to begin in a meaningful way. After enough repetition, the experience starts to feel embarrassing. It looks weak, irrational, childish, self-sabotaging. Most people interpret this as a discipline problem. Very often, it is a structural one. This is the pattern this video is diagnosing. Not the total absence of responsibility. Not laziness disguised with better language. Not a sentimental attempt to excuse avoidance. A more exact pattern. Procrastination often persists because the structure around the task makes action harder to convert into clear movement than people admit. The common explanation is moral and simple. A person procrastinates because they do not have enough discipline. If they were more serious, more committed, more mature, more focused, they would begin earlier, stay with the work, and finish without drama. Delay is treated as evidence of weak character. Productivity advice then follows naturally. Build better habits, remove distractions, stop overthinking, just start. That explanation survives because sometimes it is partially true. But it is not deep enough to explain why procrastination is so common among conscientious people, ambitious people, intelligent people, and people who repeatedly prove in other parts of life that they can handle responsibility. Consider Sara. She is not incompetent. She performs well at work. She meets deadlines that affect other people. She can show up for meetings, respond to requests, handle logistics, and solve practical problems. But there is one task that keeps repeating the same pattern. She needs to prepare a proposal that could affect her future inside the company. It is not trivial, but it is important. She has known about it for weeks. Each day, she tells herself she will work on it that evening. Each evening, she does something else. Not nothing. Something else. She cleans her inbox. She adjusts formatting on unrelated documents. She reads articles that feel adjacent to the proposal. She makes a better to-do list. She opens the file, stares at the first page, changes the title, closes it, and says she will do it properly tomorrow when her mind is clearer. Tomorrow repeats the same sequence. By the time the deadline gets close, the problem starts feeling personal. Sara no longer experiences the task as just a task. It becomes evidence. Evidence that she is undisciplined. Evidence that she always does this. Evidence that she cannot trust herself with important things unless pressure becomes extreme. When she finally completes a draft under urgency, she feels temporary relief, then shame that it required urgency at all. That experience is usually interpreted as procrastination in the narrow sense, failure to act despite knowing better. But the deeper question is not just why she delayed, it is why action remained so difficult to convert into stable motion in the first place. That is where structure matters. A task does not exist by itself. It exists inside a system of incentives, ambiguity, emotional cost, cognitive shape, environmental friction, consequence timing, and psychological meaning. When people say, "I keep procrastinating," they often describe the behavior while ignoring the conditions producing it. The delay looks like a choice. Often it is the output of a badly configured task system. In Sara's case, the proposal has several structural features working against smooth action. First, the task is high consequence, but low clarity. She knows it matters, but she does not know exactly what a good version looks like. That means every attempt to begin includes evaluation pressure. She is not merely writing, she is confronting uncertain standards. Second, the task has delayed reward and immediate discomfort. The benefit, if it comes, is in the future and possibly uncertain. The discomfort is immediate. Ambiguity, self-exposure, decision-making, and the possibility of producing something mediocre. Third, the task is identity-linked. It is not just work. It feels like a statement about her ability and potential. That increases the psychological cost of imperfect action. Fourth, the starting point is cognitively wide. There is no obvious first move that feels proportionate to the importance of the task. Beginning does not feel like beginning. it feels like entering a vague field of judgment. These are not excuses, they are operating conditions. And when those conditions accumulate, procrastination becomes predictable. This is why discipline often fails to fix procrastination in any durable way. Discipline can force action against friction, but it does not necessarily reduce the friction itself. If the task structure keeps producing high uncertainty, low immediacy of reward, diffuse starting points, and identity threat, the person may occasionally overpower the system, but the pattern will return. Each new task built the same way will generate the same behavior. That is why repeated procrastination often survives strong intentions. The person is not failing once. The system keeps generating the same output. This is clearer if we step back from the moral language usually used. People tend to speak about procrastination as if the problem were located entirely inside the individual will. But behavior is always shaped by convertibility. How easily does effort turn into visible progress? How quickly does action reduce uncertainty? How much psychological exposure is required just to begin? If a task demands too much activation before any real sense of traction appears, delay becomes likely. The person may still care deeply. In fact, caring often makes it worse. That is another reason the usual explanation fails. People assume important tasks should produce stronger action because they matter more. In reality, importance often increases hesitation when the structure is poor. The task becomes heavier, more symbolic, more evaluative, and harder to enter casually. A low-stakes email gets done. A high-stakes proposal gets avoided. Not because the person is unserious, but because the task has become psychologically non-convertible. Too much inner cost is paid before movement is felt. This is what Sara's case proves. It does not prove that self-control is irrelevant. It proves that self-control is not the full story. A person can be capable and still repeatedly delay when the system surrounding the task makes initiation expensive. The issue is not simply wanting to do it or knowing it matters. The issue is whether the task is built in a way that action can actually start without disproportionate strain. This is why procrastination often clusters around certain categories of work. Creative work with no obvious endpoint, administrative work with no emotional reward, strategic work with unclear success criteria, personal tasks tied to identity, health, or money. Conversations with interpersonal risk. Large projects broken into no meaningful first threshold. In each case, the person is told some version of the same thing. Stop procrastinating. As if naming the delay solves the conditions producing it. But the conditions are the point. Take another example. A person says they keep procrastinating on updating their resume. The popular interpretation is that they lack initiative. But what surrounds the task? It implies confronting dissatisfaction with current work, uncertainty about future options, possible rejection, status comparison, and the need to translate years of life into strategic language. The task is administratively small and structurally loaded. No wonder the person keeps putting it off. Or take health behavior. Someone delays booking a medical appointment for months. Again, the easy explanation is avoidance. But the structure may include fear of bad news, fragmented scheduling systems, unclear next steps, costs, waiting, paperwork, and a reward that does not feel immediate unless something is already wrong. The task looks simple from outside. From inside, it contains multiple small punishments and very little immediate relief. Or take daily work itself. An employee keeps postponing a slide deck. Maybe not because slides are hard, but because the audience is politically sensitive, the expectations are vague, revisions are likely, and the effort may not even be recognized clearly once completed. Action is slow because conversion is poor. This is the real importance of the phrase, behavior as system output. It changes the reading of repeated failure. Instead of asking only, why am I like this? The more accurate question becomes, what about this task system keeps making action expensive to start? That shift matters because it removes some of the false moral weight. Not all delay is pathology. Sometimes it is information. The system around the behavior is badly shaped. This is also why the imagined solution, how to stop procrastinating, often misses the mechanism. Most advice focuses on pushing behavior harder. Use timers, remove distractions, break it into steps, reward yourself. Those methods can help at the surface, and sometimes that is enough. But they often assume the task itself is fundamentally action-ready and only the person is failing to engage. Often the opposite is true. The person is colliding with poor task design, poor incentive design, poor timing design, or poor psychological framing. The delay persists because the surrounding structure is not neutral. It keeps regenerating friction faster than motivation can overcome it. That is why procrastination can feel so irrational from the inside. The person often knows the delay is making life worse. They know the task will still exist tomorrow. They know the pressure will increase. And still, they delay. Under the character flaw model, this looks absurd. Under the structural model, it becomes more legible. The person is not choosing between equal options. They are choosing between an immediate encounter with poorly convertible action and temporary avoidance that at least reduces current discomfort. Avoidance wins often because the immediate incentives are stronger. This does not make avoidance good, it makes it intelligible. To see the contrast more clearly, imagine the same person in a different task structure. Take Sara again, but now the proposal is attached to clearer standards, earlier feedback, narrower scope, a visible first threshold, and a real sense that partial progress counts as progress. The task is still important, but beginning no longer feels like entering a fog of self-evaluation. Action becomes easier because each unit of effort converts more quickly into clarity. The person has not suddenly become more virtuous. The structure has become more usable. That contrast matters because it shows what most procrastination discourse hides. The same person can look highly disciplined in one system and deeply avoidant in another. Put them in a role with fast feedback, concrete deadlines, clear deliverables, and visible consequence, and they may function well. Put them in a system of ambiguity, symbolic pressure, long delay to reward, diffuse expectations, and hidden judgment, and the same person starts circling tasks they fully intend to complete. Behavior changed because the conversion environment changed. This is why discipline is a weaker explanation than people think. Discipline matters, but its visible expression depends heavily on whether the task system allows action to become rewarding before depletion sets in. A person with average discipline in a clear system can outperform a person with strong discipline in a badly shaped one. The system is not everything, but it is often much more than people admit. That is the reframe. Repeated procrastination does not automatically prove weakness of will. Sometimes it indicates a mismatch between the person and the action structure around the task. The work may be too ambiguous, too symbolically loaded, too poorly staged, too unrewarding in the near term, too detached from visible consequence, or too psychologically costly before traction appears. In other words, the delay may be rational inside a bad system, even if the outcome is painful. That is why people can be disciplined in employment, dependable in relationships, organized in logistics, and still procrastinate on the exact tasks that carry the wrong structure. They are not globally broken, they are repeatedly meeting environments where action has poor internal convertibility. The relevant variable is constraint. Once that becomes visible, the story changes. The person no longer has to interpret every repeated delay as evidence of defect. The procrastination can be read as a signal. Something about the task structure keeps making initiation costly, unclear, misaligned, or psychologically non-convertible. The behavior is still real. The suffering is still real, but the explanation becomes less moral and more exact. And this pattern does not stop with work. The same logic appears in money, health, relationships, creative life, and identity. People delay decisions, conversations, changes, and commitments not only because they are weak, but because the surrounding structure makes the first meaningful step harder to enter than outside observers assume. A person can keep failing to act not because willpower disappeared, but because the system keeps making action too expensive to convert into movement.